opponent, Radoslaw Babica, had a nightmare start. He went down 8-1 to his opponent from Indonesia. That was a major surprise, that. So both these fellas on the brink, and I'm joined by a fellow that's just climbed back from the brink, I suppose we could say him anyway. Steve Davis is here, and Steve, you're known as a master of snooker. You're looking at the master of the game you're trying to master at the moment.
Yes, Efren Reyes is not just a master on the table, he's a magician. Obviously, you know, to some degree, this is the first time that this particular event has been held in the Philippines. I think perhaps, you know, he wants to get off to a good start. And it didn't go right for him yesterday. But I expect to see a different player today. First match can easily go wrong. It's so easy to lose in alternate breaks.
Well, a pretty good lag from both men. As we've already seen in this year's tournament, winning the lag is a very useful situation. But there's Roya Pancho from Indonesia that's really put the fly among the become the fly in the ointment there with that big win, 8-1 over Babica. So the loser of this one is effectively packing his bags and heading for home. So high stakes indeed. And Reyes, as he did against Tony Crosby, has lost the lag. That proved to be decisive for him yesterday. Or has he lost the lag? Well, Michaela Tab is actually measuring. He's that close.
Two chalks.
Yes, he does.
Two chalks and a fingernail against two chalks and a Nats. Been around for a few years, Radoslaw, the best prospect out of Poland. Hasn't come through that much.
First rack, Radoslaw Babica.
Occasionally prone to the odd mistake, but then we all are. But he's got experience on the world circuit.
He certainly has. He's been around the block in the World Pool Championship, hasn't he? Reached the last 32 as long ago as 2000, but hasn't progressed past the group stages in the last 3 years. And if he wants to put that right, he's going to have to progress against Efren Reyes right now.
Very good break. I might ask him how he does that afterwards. If I could break like that, I'd be more in business than I am. I don't know if he played it that way. Hopefully we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. The cut break, as it's called, sending the cue ball to the side rail rather than trying to plant it in the middle. But there was some spin on that shot, so he may have got some unwanted side, but the outcome's good. Gap between the 3 and the 8 for the blue 2.
I'm not sure if the city of Manila has quite recovered from what it saw yesterday. Efren Reyes lining up a routine 9 to win the match, to come back from the dead, and left it on the table, and you could hear the gasps of disbelief all around this auditorium.
Well, it happens to the best of us. It's not the first time a 9 ball's been missed in a critical situation. It won't be the last, but it would be sad for the event if Reyes went out in the group phase.
That would be for the 2nd year running as well. He disappointed in Kaohsiung, and that's before he had that corrective surgery on his eyes. He's been in great form ever since. And Babica has done himself a world of good with that shot.
Yes, excellent shot.
Yes.
Has had a few scalps over the years in tournaments. I seem to see his name crop up occasionally. I don't follow the pool circuit as much as the snooker circuit, obviously. But this would be a massive scalp for Babica. A little bit shy of pace there on the 6. Means it's a bit more difficult to control the path and the weight of the cue ball.
Yes, he's made it harder for himself than he needed to.
Don't think he can stop the cue ball short of the brown 7. He may have to go past it, or certainly to the side rail, the opposite side. Perhaps play the brown 7 into the middle pocket. Just depends how softly he wants to hit this. Doesn't want to be on the bottom rail here. This makes the shot a lot more difficult. And that weak positional shot before has led to a little bit further out of position now, compounding the error.
Isn't it amazing, Steve, in this game, as Reyes waits for what he hopes will be his chance, that you make one little mistake, it's amazing how quickly that can snowball.
Yes, when people watch Paul, sometimes they think, well, it's, you know, the pockets are very easy, the game's easy, but at this top-class level, when you must clear up, otherwise you're considered a failure, you're trying so hard to keep position. One small problem leads to a bigger one, though. This has got to be made in the middle. On the corner. Wow. That's a little bit more dangerous, but a great shot.
Oh, he's nailed it. He's nailed it. And I was with you there, Steve. I thought middle pocket all the way, but Babica saw it his way.
I think it's probably the right shot. It just sometimes on the television monitors it looks a different angle. Well, he's done nothing wrong in this rack, really. Quality cueing wise, anyway. Balls have got in the middle of the pocket, and it's one rack to Babica.
And the 9 just to make sure. Well, it all came from the break when he really ripped the rack. Had a couple of little positional wobbles, but his potting was spot on. And that long one down into the bottom left-hand pocket, really the pick of his shots. This is the one that won it for him. Fraught with danger, but rolled in without even touching the sides. A full house, as you'd expect. Good grief, Steve. There's even more in to see Efren Reyes than there were to see you. I'm shocked.
I wouldn't be shocked. I wouldn't be shocked. I think perhaps, you know, the town of Manila is just waking up all of a sudden. It's just getting to the daytime phase.
Yes.
What time is it?
I think we're at 3 o'clock, but don't trust my body clock.
Quality break, but things not going Reyes' way here. Keep your eye on the pink 4 and the orange 5. Yuck.
That is rotten luck off a break like that, isn't it?
Can't possibly now. I would think even, unless he can see some sort of safety by knocking the 4 around the back of the 5, but he may even be playing safe off of this. Doesn't want to knock the 7 really in, but...
oh, he has done, though, and he's left himself an absolute mess. Everyone's applauding because they saw the carom. What they didn't see was where that white ball was going.
Well, that was a strange shot, really, from Reyes. He must have known that if the blue 2 reached the other side of the table, it was at every chance it was going to knock it in. So why play the safety at the same time? Unless he was hoping. Probably a fantastic shot. He was a bit unfortunate that it did sneak behind there. He broke the 2 balls apart. He obviously didn't play the safety. He just played to break them apart. It was a great effort that just was a bit unlucky. And this is a tough escape. Short rail. Very hard. Got to play this with middle, not topspin. That's a great shot.
Oh.
Well, the crowd find it funny. I don't think Reyes will.
Thank you.
I think the 9-ball gods have decided they're going to have a little bit of fun with Efren Reyes this afternoon. Nothing coming easy for him. And the crowd applauds a routine safety as if he's just scored the winning goal in the World Cup final. But that one was worthy of applause.
It was a lot better than it looked, and years of experience went into that escape. I know it doesn't look like it, but a quality strike of the ball. And also, even though that small safety shot was pretty easy, he made sure that he got it very close to the 5, made this shot more difficult for Babica. Excellent. Has he got a result?
Doesn't look. Oh, has it stuck its nose out?
Nose is stuck out, but there's no chin to punch. Probably try and play a safety behind the 8 ball now, up and down the table. Try and leave that the 4 in the middle of the table. Although just a bit too much on the 4, but he'll be happy with the result. This is where the game becomes, I wouldn't say a lottery, but the run of the ball, the roll of half a ball, if you can see it or not, can make so much difference to the rack. It's where safety and the tactics does come into play, but you can't always guarantee getting a safety perfectly and snook your opponent, and that difference is so critical. Bit short of pace, as he left it. Unless he's snookered him behind the 8, which wasn't the plan. The plan was behind the 6. Well, he's got to consider himself very lucky there.
Yes, it was a nervous shot from the pole.
Not too sure, playing thin on the far side of the 4 balls, really what he wants to do here. He'll now be considering going off the side cushion first, trying to send the 4 away from the up the table. Cue ball back down behind the 8, but it's a tough shot, that. So from a mistake from Babica, a problem for Reyes. Doesn't seem a fair game sometimes, does it?
He's not had the run so far, has he, Reyes? There's all sorts of strange things have happened in this match, and we're only here in the 2nd frame.
He doesn't like this shot much. He's got to be very careful safety-wise here. He's going to leave Babica some sort of... well, it's not a bad effort, that is. He's left him obviously, he can pot it into the top left, but in knocking that 5 safe, he's pushed the 5 into a more difficult position. Another bit of magic that probably went unseen.
Yes, because as you say, even if Babica can take on and make a very difficult pot, that's not an easy one. He's got to get that cue ball in position to deposit the 5 as well. So this would have to be some awesome shot from the pole if he's to stay in control of this rack. And he's not even going to attempt it, and I'm not sure I blame him.
A bit risky, but very well played. You would think it would be nigh impossible for Radoslaw to outplay Reyes tactically. That's one area of the game that he has completely sewn up, in my opinion.
This is a thing that people sometimes forget with Reyes. We marvel at his potting and the things he can do, but he, as a tactician, he has no equal. But that's not the best tactical shot he's ever played.
Just a fraction too hard. He had to make sure he drove the ball to the rail. So some work to do for Babica to send the cue ball all around the table. 3 cushions. The possibility of going in off in the bottom right corner, should he lose control of it. Would like to be short of that. So not too hard, but hard enough to get past that 9. Is he hard enough?
Oh,
that was the problem, and he's not.
Nowhere near.
He had a bigger area to work with, but he was just a little bit worried about going into that bottom corner, so he couldn't just give it a big belt. Result, out of position. Another safety and a chance for Reyes.
Well, at least he should be able to establish distance between cue ball and object ball here. Whether he can get one of those other balls to help with a block remains to be seen.
Not easy to get behind this 9 without offering the 5 into the... So it looks like he's playing something else. Side to side safety, I'm not sure here. No, he played the long bank. Aggressive.
Very aggressive. I'd have to say, Steve, that's an uncharacteristic shot from Reyes. That was almost hit and hope for the best, wasn't it? Which is not his game.
Well, if you look at where he put the cue ball, I suppose there was a chance of safety anywhere up the side rail, but it's perhaps he felt that was as good a shot as any. But this is cuttable. And an excellent pot. Babica looking solid as a rock in the potting stakes. It's something that when he first came on the scene in the World Pool League, he was a bit wobbly on, was the actual cue action, potting the ball, but seems to be stronger now. A more complete player. I don't know if he's hampered by this 9 ball. And this would be a test of his cueing if he was to jack up in the air a little bit. This is not a certainty. I know it looks easy, but it's not certain.
Again, he's made a not easy pot look very simple.
Centre ball striking imperative there. And he did hit it right in the middle. So 3 cushions once again for the cue ball. Problems for Reyes.
Yeah, his game's not quite there at the moment. He started off slow against Tony Crosby. And were it not for an outrageous fluke when he potted a 9 completely by accident, he'd have been a long way behind there and possibly out of the picture altogether. Oh, that's a mistake.
Well, he overhit it as well by... He didn't have to hit it that hard. I know he's bang on the 9, but he could have been shorter. Less power would have been okay. He would have had a shot at it. You know, these pockets may be big, but they're not that big, especially when you use pace. Early Christmas present for Reyes.
Very much so. Something he needed. Remember, this was the Reyes break. Babica had a chance to put Reyes in a deep hole, and he's let it slip through his fingers. Can't play that game against this fella. Reyes gets away with one. One apiece in this race to 8. 2 fellas on the brink of elimination here. Radoslaw Babica, who had a chance for 2-0, and then made an awful error on the 8 to let it slip away and allow Reyes to level it up. Had a great break last time.
A lot of side spin on this cue ball as well.
Look at that.
You don't really want the spin on. I don't think this ball's going to stop eventually. I mean, that was mishit, but still hit very hard. You know, if he'd have caught that in the centre, he would have crushed them. But should be a very easy rack to run here.
It's the kind of rack, Steve, that even a complete novice like myself would have looked at and thought, oh, I might have a chance of that.
Yeah.
I don't think I'd have made it, but I would have had a chance.
No, you wouldn't have. But you could think that.
Exactly.
Yeah, I could understand how you would.
Exactly.
Especially the more you watch, the more you think you're good, don't you, as well? So that comes into the equation
and then
as
you
an
go
armchair viewer.
And then you go on the table in the pub and think, hang on, those pockets just got smaller.
Yes, and also then you realise how good we actually are.
Yes.
It's just we're totally critical when we're in the commentary box, but obviously, you know, the slightest mistake you pick up on. But this is top-class pool at any level, and the likes of Babica are a highly accomplished player. So any criticism we do throw any of these players' way is only judged by the fact this is the World Championship.
Yes, it's all relative, isn't it? It's the elite, it's the cream of the cream.
That's the words. I was looking for those words, but they didn't come to me. Just about held this. If he'd have had any more pace on that cue ball to the side cushion, it would have made position on the 9 more complicated. He can just about trundle this in now and stay on the 9, I think. Impress.
Oh, no. This is not the way to play against anybody, never mind Efren Reyes.
Bit of annoyance there. And he couldn't hold for position, so he had to play with a bit of right-hand spin, which makes the pot that bit more difficult. And gratefully accepting a lifeline, really. The last thing Reyes could afford to do is have a tough game today. If he does have an easy path because of his opponent's mistakes, that'll settle him down for his more important last match.
Well, Babica can shake his head. He should be 3-0 up. There's absolutely no reason why the pole should not have Reyes in a deep hole. Instead, the magician, to the relief of just about everybody in this auditorium, is 2-1 to the good and breaking next. So, a packed house, as ever, whenever Efren Reyes is around.
Efren Reyes to break, leading by 2 racks to 1.
Even an Efren Reyes that is not firing on all cylinders will still pack him in.
Revving up for a break. Pretty firm break. Where's the cue ball? Going towards the middle. Oh, and this is a marvellous outcome for something that could have gone drastically wrong. Cue ball was so close to going in the middle pocket. It would have made it as well. And then the 1 got a knock by the 7. Got to make sure clears the 7 ball here. Drawing the cue ball back quite nicely. Would have liked that to have stopped short of the dead straight line for the 3. Now he's got to do a little bit of work around the bottom of the table with a bit of spin. Oh, that's a great strike. That really is a great strike.
Can you play yourself into form in a tournament like this, Steve? You know, like tennis players can often tune up in the first and second round of big tournaments and, you know, get ready effectively for the big challenges ahead, or do you really want to start out, you know, with all guns blazing?
Well, I think in this format this year, when you've only got 3 matches, you can't afford to be too slow out of the blocks. But it does help if your opponents give you the shots to play yourself into form. And all of a sudden, this is what could be happening in this match. And you do need a bit of help from your friends. Efren is the magician, but at the moment it's been a Houdini act to start this match off, and the help's been from his accomplice, Radoslaw, who should really not be. Well, didn't want that to happen. Just about got away with it, I think.
It's just not Reyes' pool at the moment.
Well, if you're a little bit tight, and your back arm's just a fraction tight playing this game, it's all about positional shots. If you don't get the right weight on the ball, a lot of problems can accrue. Back in nice position now.
He always strikes you with his body language as a fellow that's very unfazed by it all. He's a very reluctant superstar. He doesn't embrace it. He just seems to be quite happy just to wander around and do his thing. But the expectation level, as you know, Steve, you know, you pick up the paper, the national newspaper, and Reyes is front page news. Never mind hold the back page. He's front page news, and this expectation does seem to be getting to him a little bit here.
Well, he's a fierce competitor. He just has to get sort of motivated in the match, and all of a sudden you see those eyes light up just a fraction.
Thank goodness his opponents off form as well from the Filipino perspective. There's a couple of absolute howlers from the pole.
It's funny, I was listening to some of the commentary yesterday, and you have to be critical when there are mistakes. That's what it's all about. But yes, he doesn't need many mistakes this game to be playing badly. as opposed to playing well. Whereas if in the world of snooker, you miss the occasional ball, you wouldn't be said to be playing badly. But the occasional ball missed at this can cost you so dear that it's judged to be bad play. It's a great break.
It's a game that basically one mistake and your opponent's in, effectively, isn't it? That's the trouble. There's very few second chances in a rack of 9-ball.
It's a bit like being a gunslinger. You know, if you don't fire first and get your guy on the ground with the first bullet, he's likely to get you. And if you're out of form and you're missing with that first bullet, you're out. You're a bad gunslinger, probably because you're in the ground.
Boot Hill. Now,
another
is that
poor
go?
effort.
Can he try the combination?
He can, but it's a mistake positionally that he doesn't need, and things can magnify, and these small things can go wrong. This is missable. The 4 in the middle pocket was unmissable. Should get this. It's nicely set. He's just got to aim fractionally thick, as if he was putting the 4 ball to the far jaw.
As you say, though, a harder shot than he needed to even be thinking about.
It's probably a little bit further than the far jaw, probably 6 inches up the rail. He's got to aim this 4 ball.
Well, the good news is the brown went down. Do you want the bad news?
He's out of position.
Again.
And therein lies the problem. I mean, he had to be careful of that. He did play at the right pace to make sure that the brown 7 had every chance. But in doing that, has sacrificed position. And it's a safety shot. And a chance for Reyes, even though he's snookered, to get out of trouble.
He's going to want to take a look at this, isn't he?
2 cushion escape, if he can make it, is ideal.
Is Reyes the sort of player that might fancy a bank shot?
No.
Not going to go for that?
No. It's just too risky. My experience of watching Reyes in these situations, and most of the top players, they play the 2 cushion escape if they can. Don't tell me he's going to play this, Nick. I should just don't, please. He's going to do it. Yeah, he did. Okay,
did.
fair enough. Well, he may not have done, but
not quite sure what he was doing there. He set it up. Whatever. For Babica.
The art of the tactical play is that if you think, even if in escaping the shot, you're not going to get out of trouble with it, you can't play safe, then perhaps the art of it is you might as well go for it. So perhaps you were right there. The chance it was going to happen and fluke the ball. Now another golden opportunity. Oh, it's not great. Well, that's missable as well.
There was an oath muttered in Polish, I think, there that we barely heard. I know you're fluent in Polish, so we won't ask you what he said.
Well, I probably know what he's thinking. It's not nice when you're out there and things go wrong. And I wouldn't say you're making a fool of yourself, but you sometimes can think you're doing that.
Yeah, well played. It's a lonely place as well, isn't it? Efren Reyes in Manila. There's not too many friends in the house.
No, it can work for you, but if things start to go wrong, it becomes a problem. Not only has he got to pot this, he's got to retain position on this 8. Makes it a little bit more difficult. Nicely struck. No mistakes from here. Well, I say no mistakes.
You can't quite relax with, well, actually with either of them at the table, let's face it.
I think Efren's thinking that he's going to get his chances at some stage. This guy's at the moment on the edge. He's only just getting them in the pockets.
but only just was good enough there. After Reyes went for an audacious bank shot on the pink, didn't come off, let the pole in, and it's 3-2. But Reyes will be up next. He seemed to be out of position on just about every shot he played here, the pole, didn't he? But still got the job done. So there we go, a chance for Reyes.
Efren Reyes to break, leading by 3 racks to 2.
To increase his lead once again to 2 racks. But neither men really flowing at the moment. The wing ball goes in. The cue ball got bashed around a little bit, but stayed central, and I think he can get a real good look at that one.
Yeah, excellent break there from Reyes. Deserved position on the one. A little bit tricky, the 3 to 4. Perhaps play it down into the top left-hand pocket. Wants to be straight on this 3. That's perfect. He can then just float the 4 down the rail, or should he fancy it, he can screw back for the 4 in the same pocket. And there's always the danger when you do play a 4 past the middle pocket that it can hit the point of the pocket, so some players don't like this shot. Every now and again you roll it down the rail and it just catches what you can't believe it could catch the point of the middle pocket, but every now and again it happens. Depends how far away from the cushion that 4 is.
Well, he made that look easy. And that, you would think, is the hardest shot of this rack.
Well, the only thing that can go wrong now is lack of concentration, but I don't think that's happening for Reyes in this match. Concentration will be 100%.
Talking of concentration, Steve, I don't know if you saw, if you were here for his miss on the 9 in the last rack, and somebody, I was asked what happened there, and the only thing I could think of was he'd got out of jail, that Tony Crosby had let him off so many times, he'd almost breathed his sigh of relief before he played the shot.
Yeah, I think the dynamic of that match was one of both players towards the end getting very nervous, and sometimes one player can get the other person nervous, and it was a frantic and an exciting ending to that match, and just got to Efren as well. Similar shot to the one that Efren missed, but under different circumstances. I'd be astonished if he didn't hit this right in the centre of the pocket.
Just like that. 4-2, the magician, showing a little touch of what he's really all about in that rack. It was a good break. He had good position for his first shot off the break. And never really got out of position either. And Radoslaw never got out of his chair. Well, we're enjoying the action here on table 1. There's stuff going on everywhere else. Ramil Gallego and Rob Say's locked in quite a battle there. Marcus Chamat has finally got through. Napoleon, 8-4, a winner over Jong Young-hwa of Korea. And all the other matches look like they're going to be nail-biters. Could be a couple of hill matches going on elsewhere. I think at the moment Radoslaw Babica would take a hill match here if he was offered it.
I think that's Marcus, 2 wins out of 2. Good player, Marcus Chamat.
On his day, he could beat anybody, couldn't he?
Yep, and he probably has. Fantastic Mosconi Cup player as well has been Marcus. Full of heart and fire. No, we're not watching him play, but I just thought I'd talk about him. It's a tough shot now. For the one's obviously easy, but getting position on the 2, that's tough. Got to try and screw it up the left-hand side of the table. Got to make an angle. Too much angle, but he'll have to settle for that. He's now got to cut the blue 2 in. miss the 8, which shouldn't be a problem. Just a little bit of work to do to clear these balls. A bit of positional sense needed. First part accomplished. It shouldn't be a problem, but sometimes where the black 8 is, if a player doesn't get on the right angle for the black 8, you could leave yourself in a bad position on the 9, looking a lot further ahead obviously, but that would be the biggest stumbling block.
As you say, Steve, it's not an ideal layout, but it's something he's got to clean up.
It's one of the practice routines that the players I've often seen do. They put balls on rails and all sort of so they're far away from each other, and that's the hardest clearance you can possibly get when the balls are in this sort of type of situation. This is nice, and he probably would like to be pretty straight on this black 8, so he could just screw up the same side of the table. It's not always easy to get perfectly straight on a ball. I think he can probably draw it back across. He's got to be careful of running into the middle pocket. That's why he hit it pretty softly. He's still getting close to that pocket.
That's getting very close. He just got the brakes on in time.
That's why he see him sort of decelerate the cue there to try and kill the white ball, but he had to get fairly straight on it.
Just drawing that cue ball back. Ball position on the 9.
I don't know if it was mentioned earlier about the spanner, was it? Was it?
No,
did we talk about the spanner?
I don't think we did.
We'll tell you about the spanner in a minute.
It was literally a spanner in the works, wasn't it? But no problems there for the pole. Another good break and a very accomplished clean-up as well, because that wasn't easy. He's still in this. Babica, 4-3 Reyes.
Pizza.
Have you played a great man at 9-ball?
Yes, on at least 2 occasions. I can't think of, perhaps, well, even more than a couple of doubles matches as well. Yeah, pleasure playing the man. You know you've got to be on your mettle tactically, otherwise you haven't got a chance against him. You'd be upset with that.
It's not often you see the 1 end up at the bottom. Oh, look, it's bounced out of the side pocket. That's why it's come down to the bottom of the table like that.
Got to be a push. Just got to be a push.
But push to where, Steve? You want to give the opponent a little nibble of something, don't you?
Somewhere on the down there the area.
Out of trouble.
Yeah. Well, you obviously sacrifice the tactical advantage by having to play the push out, but the likes of Efren Reyes will know to leave the percentages of whether to go for the shot or to put the other guy back in as tight as possible, make the other guy worried about whether he's making the right decision or not. Looks like he's going to tie the 4 and a 2 up. Is he? Sort of. 4 and a 7 then, okay. I'd have just tapped it down the table. Wouldn't have thought of that. It's a bit more insurance should it go wrong.
Yes. Look at the distance as well. That ball is on the top rail.
Yeah.
Object ball is on the bottom rail.
Well, that's sort of, you know, that's no good if the guy puts you back in again. You really, but that's not the point. He's just trying to make it as complex as possible a problem for Babica. Does he go for it himself or put Reyes back in? Well, you'll be happy with that.
Very happy.
Very happy.
Oh, you couldn't have played that much better.
And now you see the importance of the insurance policy that Reyes took out in pushing that 4-ball safe. Okay, it could have been pushed apart there, but now even if he does miss this escape, or escapes but sticks the 1-ball up, it's not game over. Oh, great shot. I mean,
unlucky.
Oh, he doesn't want to split them apart.
Oh, that's doubly unlucky. Although he's got the 2 covered.
Slight bit of annoyance there. I think
Yeah.
that wasn't as bad as it looked, that cue dropping down there. There's a bit of metal. It sounds louder than it is. If that was on carpet, it had just gone like that. So it wasn't bad sportsmanship at all. It just slipped out of his fingers a bit.
He's not known as a sulky type. There are 1 or 2 players we would have...
There's the occasional one we've seen on our television screens.
Once in a while.
Quite often. Sometimes comes.
And don't we love it when they lose?
No, not at all, no.
Just gets even more fireworks going then.
Oh, never anything personal on a pool table. The biggest problem is the table itself and the balls. They're your enemy. Now, all of a sudden, looks relatively easy, this. Drag this in, slow one. Use the 9-ball. Oh, that was a bit... That wasn't really good. Well, it's hard to say that was anything other than very poor, because he was trying to knock the 2-ball in and use the 9-ball as a break to just leave it there for the 4-ball. And so because of that, he hit it a lot harder. But if he'd have just played it very softly, he'd have got the same result. But the cue ball could never have ended up there had he mishit it. And that's a schoolboy error, as they would say in schools.
Can he get himself out of it?
Well, he can do that, but it's just another chance gone, you know, and another chance for the magician to get out of trouble. You can't afford at this level to be doing this.
I'm not sure Reyes is too thrilled with what he can see here.
Yeah, it's better than losing the rack.
Better than losing the rack.
That's the way to look at it.
But how does he get safe out of this? That's what he's going to be trying to work out.
Well, you can't just knock the 4-ball up the table and softly go behind the 9, because you've got to make sure the ball hits a rail afterwards. So it's a little bit more difficult than it would seem. So that's why he's chosen to whack it, and he's a bit upset there that it's all gone wrong. He's a bit unlucky there, really. He played that very well. Frustration a bit. He's frustrated. It's just not going right.
Steve, I have to say, he may win this match. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if he does win the match, but this is not the Efren Reyes that we all know and love.
Well, the format has got everybody under pressure, and that's the end of it, really. There was the format last year was 8 players. You played 7 matches, and 4 went through to the next phase. The likes of Reyes were more or less guaranteed. I know he didn't, but more or less guaranteed to win through, get through. All of a sudden, this is hang on to your hats time, straight from day one. It's really asking questions of players to not make mistakes.
It's because you could make a slow start like you did last year. I mean, you looked. I mean, if you'd lost your first 2 matches last year, which I think you did, you still had a chance to come back, which you did. You lose 2 here. That's it. Pack your bag.
There may be perhaps a mathematical situation where a player could get through with just 1 win, but you don't want to leave it like that.
No.
So Babica has every chance, even though he's making some positional errors, of getting 4-4. There's the frustration of the game. Reyes knows he's the better player on the day even. He's not making as many mistakes, but the scores are going to be 4-all.
With the pole breaking next. Assuming he finishes the job here. Well, I seem to recall last time that he had a relatively routine 8-9 to get the job done. He made an awful mess of the 8-ball. Not this time. And Reyes looks like he could be in for another one of those marathon sessions, just like yesterday against Tony Crosby. Yeah, Radoslaw has got himself back on level terms. 4 apiece in this race to 8.
who all of a sudden now must fancy that, even though he hasn't particularly produced this match, should things go well break-wise, that he could turn over Reyes in this match and give himself a chance of staying alive in the league. And now the questions are asked once again of Babica, can he hold himself together? He didn't in the early part of this match, but he's got a few more racks under his belt. It's alarm bells for Reyes, I know that.
Well, it's a race to 4 with the other guy leading off. Alternate breaks. I mean, the dice are loaded now for the pole.
Oh, not behind the 4. Okay. Small errors like that, giving yourself a chance to get unlucky, so to speak. Perhaps you would have been unlucky if you had gone behind the 4, but it don't want to be anywhere near there, really. Shots like that also add to your opponent's frustration. And as much as you know, perhaps he's not totally in control of the cue ball, but he's getting away with it. He's got to remain quite composed now, Reyes. Just do things pretty simply and hope that Babica falls apart.
He's not considered a great player under pressure, I think, the Pole, that's fair to say. In the World Pool League earlier this year, he needed to win his last match 6-4 to progress, and he ended up losing 7-3 to Chang Pei Wei, who was also here. In fact, he lost his earlier, but the previous match in that one to Torsten Homan, having made a good start with a couple of wins and a draw, and just really let it all crumble away. So but to go back to that World Pool League, I mean, he was in with the likes of Ralph Souquet, Niels Fire, Dennis Orcolo, all of whom are here, and he was winning or drawing against those guys. It shows you this bloke is no mug.
Oh, no, he's not at all. No, we're just asking the question, when the chips are down, what's going to happen? A little bit disjointed, the cue action. That's one part of his game. It's a bit sort of mechanical, that part. If you see Reyes cueing, a bit more flowing.
You're watching Tony Crosby playing yesterday against Reyes. One of the things we remarked on his cueing, actually. His cueing was very smooth. Looked like a lot of snooker background there from Tony.
Yes, I was talking to him earlier. He said he spent about sort of 5 or 6 years learning his trade out in the States, but comes from a snooker background. Obviously that cue action has got to be pretty decent to knock balls in on the snooker table. I'm not saying Babica's a bad cueist by any means. He's trying to be as methodical as possible under pressure. That's the only way to go about it. Nicely in the middle.
Yeah, held himself together very well there. He's got a lot of opportunities off his break, the Pole. This time he took full advantage. The break again coming to his rescue, and now Reyes is in trouble. 5-4, and he knows he needs to get a rack on the Babica break. So the stakes getting pretty high now. He's got to really find his A game in a hurry. I mean, if he were to drop another rack on his break, there may be no way back.
No, that is the problem with the alternate breaks format, is that if Babica can convert all of his breaks, he's the winner. It's as simple as that. I know we're a long way off that yet, but there's a monster break there from Reyes, but not absolutely perfect. Bit of distance between the lowest ball remaining on the table, the 3 ball, and also a little bit of work to do to get on the 4. This does need cueing well, which he does. That's marvellous. Made light work of a tricky situation. T-shirt behind there, Efren Reyes, with the words innovation and supreme quality. 3 words that spring to mind when we're talking about Efren.
Sums up his career pretty well, doesn't it?
Just about enough. I think just about enough anyway. He's got to now draw this across to the right-hand side of the table. I'd say he's about a ball shy of being nice. So now, if you weren't to screw back well enough, he could scratch in the middle pocket. And he has got to be careful. You'd like to get closer to this, but he may not be able to. Hard to see from here. No, had to sacrifice getting close for avoiding the scratch. Shouldn't be a problem. Going to come down the right-hand side of the table, I would imagine, to get the pace roughly right.
This is just what he needed, isn't it? A nice, good run of balls off the break. Yeah, very dialed in, some real focus in those eyes. He's not playing with the crowd much at all in this match, is he? There's usually a few little asides and stuff going on with the crowd, but not here. This man is playing for his World Pool Championship future at the moment.
The Carling Cup live on Sky.
And here in the World Pool Championships on day 2, we're going to take you back to the match now between Efren Reyes and Radoslaw Babica. The score is 5-all, and we join it for the 11th rack.
Okay, there's the situation Babica found himself in. Great break. Very unfortunate the green 6 was in the way. And the push out, he's pushed to a snooker. Asking the question, do you want to jump? And if you don't, I will. Reyes has only just been a convert, I believe, to the jump shot. I think he has a jump cue, I'm not absolutely sure. Here's the break off. Another quality break, planting that cue ball very nicely. It looked perfect until all of a sudden the 6 ball got in the way. Very unfortunate. Reyes puts Babica back in. Good thing from Reyes' point of view here is that the jump shot would be very difficult to get position on the blue 2. I suppose if he did pop the ball and leave the cue ball down the bottom of the table, there's the 2-9 combination. Speculative shot with a bit of safety involved, but it's looking too far ahead. This is tough enough. Where's the ball's going to end up? Are they going to be favourable for Reyes? Don't know if he can see enough of it to pot it. And he's also hampered by the 6. But even so, he now has control of the table, and you would expect Reyes to be able to manufacture something. Obviously, looking at this, you think, okay, just stun the cue ball behind the 9 and the 2, but that 3 and the 4 you can see there, they're in the way, really. It is not certain how this is going to unfold here. May just have to try and play and hope for the best as far as how the balls resolve themselves. And a clever little clip there. That's what he played, and that's what he got. That's a monster safety. That's very hard to get out of.
He needs to get some skis on, because the only way you get to that ball is a slalom. I mean,
I think the only thing he can do is jump to hit the side of the ball, and it's just trusting to luck where these go after this. Most times you play the jump shot, you're really hoping that you can pot the ball.
I mean, this is so close to impossible that there's an argument to play the deliberate foul just to mess the table up.
No, you can jump it. It's okay. It's not a problem.
It is a jumper, is it?
Yeah,
you
it's
could go.
not a problem. It's not a problem jumping it, but you can't jump and hit enough of the ball to control the cue ball. So, you know, the balls are going to be flying around the table here, and every chance that Reyes will be given a shot. His only saving grace is the 3 ball, slightly tied up with the 8. Well, he hit as much of that as he could, and that was an excellent effort. He split the balls apart, but he's going to be delighted with the outcome of this, and it's given Reyes a massive headache as well.
And he's broken up that cluster as well.
Well, this is a tough shot. I think. Well, I don't know what I think. All he can probably do is just to try and just clip it and send it up the rail, but I don't know. I don't even know if he can do that. Oh!
He can do that instead.
Well, that looked a lot. Well, I thought that was tight on the cushion. I didn't think that was possible. Amazing. Because obviously it was never in doubt that he could pot it.
Well, let's be honest, Steve. He made it look very easy, and there was nothing easy about that shot.
Well, perhaps it was. But it didn't look it. It looked like the ball had gone tight to the rail there, and that would have been impossible. Well, that was cheeky. The only way he could guarantee making the 3-8 combination was if he stayed close to the ball. So he played the bank shot instead of potting it and sending the cue ball around the table. Marvellous attempt here. Knocking the 9 towards the pocket as well here, I think.
Yes, doing just that.
You won't play any type of combination on the 9, obviously. You'll just run the rack.
Looking for position on the pink 4.
Well, very important time to win a rack against the break.
Yes,
very similar to the serve at tennis. This format has become. It's like effectively like a 2-rack swing when it happens.
Yes, with 8 being the magic number. This will do Efren Reyes' cause a power of good.
That's not the best place to be.
No,
it's the only place where it's half a problem. But he looks zoned in now. Looks a different player now, doesn't he?
It looks somewhere he refocused in this match, because he really seemed to be fighting the table, but it's not flowing and coming easy for him, but he is getting the job done with a little bit more authority now.
Had a little bit of body movement after the shot there. Wasn't too happy with that, but it's home and dry now. The crowd very appreciative. The hero goes in front.
You're asking for an awful lot of things to happen for you to get away with that. So both these fellows walked into this afternoon's match knowing victory was absolutely essential. It looks like Reyes is the man that's put himself in position to claim that win. But as we've seen in other matches, you never quite relax until that last 9 ball goes down, and he's certainly not relaxed here.
He's not a happy bunny as far as the outcome of the cue ball and the 1 ball. It's a bit of a stretch
with
for any player.
With that brown tucked in there as well.
Left-handed. Oh, awful. Well, the rest, or whatever it is that is now being brought out of the table, has a variety of different grooves in it, and this is the groove of choice. Tough shot. Bigger balls than snooker balls. You've got to jack up even higher. He'll be happy with that.
Yeah, he's in the groove. No
position as far as making the two, but there are combination possibilities. Soft 2 to 8. Just making sure that 2 stays over the pocket. That's probably what he's going to do. Oh, has it gone to the point? Has he got enough? That's a great shot. He's got enough on the 2. Marvellous.
Couldn't have played it much better, could he?
Well,
and now the rack is starting to look very simple. Sorry to interrupt you there, Steve.
That was not going to say anything particularly exciting anyway. Don't worry about that. Oh, that was an excellent shot. That really was a good shot. Taking his time, not rushing this clearance. It's a very important stage of the match. And even though under any type of normal circumstances, this would be a formality. He's just going to try and get it set in his brain, the route around the table for these 6 balls.
Well, he really is taking his time, and rightly so. You can't afford any more slips at this point of the match. And it's Radoslaw Babica now that's staring bleakly into the abyss, knowing that his World Championship match might be going up in smoke here. Oh, that's not a happy place to be.
It isn't, especially as there's no prize money for last in your group, as far as I'm aware.
No, you get, I think it's $1,000 for coming third, and you get absolutely nothing for turning up.
Just get a round of applause, that's about it, I think, as you leave the building.
What would you take, a round of applause or $1,000? Well, I suppose you've got so much money, Steve, you'll take the applause.
I'll have to think about that. At the critical time of the match, Reyes comes good.
And this fella can only sit and watch. Reyes takes one step nearer his first win at the World Pool Championship. He is on the hill.
Through.
Which is why Reyes would be so pleased to have at least gone 8-7 against Tony Crosby, because that would stack the tiebreaker in his favour. And it would also mean he'd want to get rid of this fella as quickly as possible, and he nearly scratched, and that really would have been lights out for Babica.
Well, he's got to be happy with the way these have split. Oh, he was that close to losing. Does break well though. I know he lost the white ball a bit there, but it's a pretty effective break. There is really no problems in this break apart from getting good position on the 5-7 combination. So that getting the right angle on the 4 to get on the 5 is the problem. But it shouldn't be too much of a problem. That was a bit more difficult than I thought as well. I don't think it was that far off. I thought it was straighter than that. So once again, I'm claiming camera angle.
They are deceptive, aren't they, these camera angles? As we've seen before, though, the only angle that counts is that look straight down the cue. Every angle that the TV cameras offer, they can be deceptive. Like that one on the rail that Reyes made look so easy, that we both thought was absolutely impossible.
So now, a headache. in as much as keeping position on the 4 ball. He can cut this red 3 into the left-hand pocket, knowing if he missed, obviously, he would probably snooker Reyes, but he's got to retain position on the 4. Doesn't want to sacrifice the table over to Reyes again. So a bit of a problem here. He hasn't quite worked out how he's going to play this shot. He's changed his mind now. He's playing a safety, I think.
Well, he did miss, and he's got the snooker.
I think the right shot there to play the safety. He could have panicked, potted the 3, lost position on the 4, would have had to have played safe anyway. And it wouldn't have been as easy a safety shot as the one he's just played. So good percentage choice there from Radoslaw Babica, fighting for his continuation in this World Pool Championship for the first time in Manila in its current format. I don't know the history of pool going back over the years, where the World Pool Championship has been before the likes of Matchroom Sport took over the running of it.
It wouldn't be a surprise if it's been here. It is a pool-mad country, isn't it? They are very
Crazy,
passionate about it. Yeah.
Everybody knows the pool players. Everybody. Well, most people.
Any time you're #1 on the sports pages, you know it's big time.
Brilliant escape from Reyes. Okay, you can't always guarantee that you're going to snooker your opponent, but Reyes made sure that he left the ball safe. And once again, it's not easy to see, but I think that's probably a 4-ball snooker, or as good as. And if it is, he's staring a loss in the face. If he can't clip this 3-ball and get it safe, he could be one shot away from oblivion. Is he jumping? Is he swerving? I think he's swerving fractionally. Tough shot to control. He's got to get down the table behind those 3 balls. Oh, he had to go for rail. And here's the chance.
Yeah, and I think these fans...
The crowd clapping, not the escape, clapping the positional play that they see has opened up for Reyes. And now this is a chance you would expect him to grasp with both hands.
And a noticeable buzz of expectation around this table. This could be the moment Efren Reyes finally gets his World Pool Championship challenge together.
Babica knows it. But still the problem, getting perfect position. And Reyes is summing up every angle there to see what is the best way. I think that last one he looked at was quite nice. If he keeps to the left-hand rail, he can make the 7 and use the 6 to break the path of the cue ball. So he's coming quite a way over. That's exactly where he wanted it. That is absolutely perfect. I know it seems a little bit out. Okay, right, a ball out, you know. But now in playing this, bit of stun on the cue ball. He's going to line up lovely on the 5. All right, he's not happy with it, so I'm talking rubbish. I thought it was okay.
He'll probably make it look okay, knowing him. Oh, that's why he... But he's...
Oh no! I don't believe he missed it. I thought it was a given shot anyway. I really didn't think it was that much of a problem. I know these are slightly tighter pockets than we've had in previous years, but I still thought it was on. Wow.
Well, this is extraordinary, and this is why he was so grumpy about it. And he almost fluked it. But look at that. 2 pockets that wouldn't claim a ball. And Babica thrown a lifeline.
Well, he's just got to cut the 5 thin and knock the 7 in. I don't really... It's a very thin cut, but he's got to play it that way. I really don't think the cannon is the right shot. Well, I don't like this, but anyway, go for it. This could go wrong. The other way you can't go. The other way you can't fail. This can go wrong.
Well, if it does go wrong, it's the end of the match.
This has an element of danger. The other way, I can't believe he can't cut this 5 onto the 7. It's not. It's thin, but it's not that thin.
Well, he's got away with it.
But it can go wrong if he can't pot the 5 in the corner. You know, okay, yeah, he's on it, but it's probably not as easy as it looks on our television screens.
No,
it's a thin cut.
You wouldn't want to be taking this one on with your hopes hanging by a very thin thread.
Probably not as thin as the 5 to the 7, the shot that perhaps he should have played, but.
There's almost grudging applause there because these fans were getting ready to raise the roof, weren't they? And they've been denied, or at least a stay of execution for this man.
Another shock for Reyes, looking like he was home and dry once again.
And coming into this tournament, he was such an overwhelming favourite. Well, this isn't the easiest 9-ball that you've ever seen.
Reyes to break.
It is Reyes to break, assuming this 9 goes down. Which it does. He's still hanging on somehow. But he still has his destiny in his hands here. One good
Rack
break.
14, Efren Reyes to break, leading by 7 racks to 6.
One good clean-up, and it'll all be over. Sounds so easy, doesn't it? But very rarely does a rack of 9-ball go like that.
Oh, marvellous. He gave those a great whack. Technical term.
And he's got a good look at the blue too as well. Not much he'd complain about with that rack.
No, he can't complain, although it's got to be made, this blue too. It is missable.
Oh.
A tremendous amount of body movement on the shot there. He was up and away from the shot before he'd even played it. That was, well, tension. You see that again? He's moving up on the shot as he plays it. That makes it a lot harder to play the game.
There's a lot of pool left in this match, but if that mistake lets Babica in to clean up, it's the pole who breaks for the match next. That's how expensive that miss could be.
I'd like to predict that won't be the last miss of the match.
No.
See how accurate I am.
I'm not putting any money down against you, Steve. This one is fraught with nerviness, if there's such a word.
Oh, it's got to be now. There must be. Well, it's fascinating. It was a fascinating match. Efren's last match. Unfortunately, when the greats fail, it becomes fascinating.
Even when they struggle, as he has here. And the real worry for the Efren Reyes watchers, he struggled against Tony Crosby because for most of that match, Tony was in great form, made all his shots. This fella hasn't been making all his shots.
No, it's a nail biter. That's a very good shot, and that has opened the path up nicely. Excellent. The best shots that Babica's played. It really has made this a lot easier, and Reyes is just, he just can't believe it. I think he's laughing at the situation that's occurred. You know, he's just not been able to get a grasp on his first match. He should have put this one away, and all of a sudden he's leaving it so late that trusting to luck. Surely Reyes won't go out. Okay, there's some other great Filipinos in the tournament, but this guy's the hero.
Well, there are still all kinds of scenarios to open up here in Group 2, but let's just say for the sake of argument that Reyes did lose here. Obviously his destiny is out of his hands, but he could still get through. He would have to hope that Tony Crosby wins out in his 2 remaining matches, and then Reyes would have to win his last match.
By a massive scoreline to overcome the Indonesian, who had a very easy win over Babica.
Yeah. It's well out of his control if he loses here.
Babica's effectively 12 balls away from victory.
And he's been breaking so well, Steve.
Always a bit shy of pace. Oh. He would have been better off being harder than softer. We saw him miss a shot with right-hand spin before. This is exactly the same shot. Reyes can't watch. Babica's got to play this with right-hand spin to avoid scratching in the middle pocket. He overcut it last time. Severe pressure. Doesn't look missable. Plays it much better this time. That was an excellent shot. Perhaps it didn't need as much side spin as the last one. Reyes has to pray for a bad break now.
And we're involved in another heel-heel match involving Efren Reyes. And just like against Tony Crosby, Reyes will sit in his chair while the other guy breaks. It's out of his hands now. 7 apiece. And Radoslaw Babica up next. That's the miss that let the opponent in. And the pole, under great pressure, looked pretty composed in cleaning up. Well, that's one of those uncharacteristic Reyes misses that we saw there. And to follow up with that, it's just not the magician that we know. Even if he wins here, the question has to be asked, what is wrong with this man's game by his standards?
Well, obviously on that blue too, we saw too much body movement. The idea of the game is to keep most of your body as still as possible and just let your right arm do the work. Here's the break. Oh, so important. Oh, it's a brilliant one.
Oh, look at this, look at this. No,
oh, but you can't believe it, can you?
Oh.
Thank you.
You just can't believe it.
Just when you thought he'd got it all nicely lined up. Cue ball, 1 ball and 8 ball lined up in a way that will just break your heart. Look at that little kick.
No,
well,
thank you.
That is the lifeline that Efren Reyes needed.
well, it looks like a pretty simple safety, sending the 1 ball up and down the table in a straight line, trying to plant it in the middle where that chalk is, or as close as possible, and then snooker behind the 9 and the 8. That would seem to be a pretty elementary shot. It's a bit shy of pace, I think. Oh, he might just have got there. Nope, it's not a snooker. It's a very risky pot. If he can get past to the outside edge, the left-hand edge, it's still a risky pot to take on. What does he do? The slow safety to the side cushion just before the middle pocket.
Well, they always say, don't they, Steve, in this game, the great players are the guys that go out and win the match. You don't win a match by playing safe, but surely here, heel, caution has got to be the #1 factor.
Well, firstly, we don't know whether he can actually clip the left-hand edge. I don't think he can, but there is the possibility of the long bank just going past the 6, but it's so risky.
And with no safety net, why would you take that risk?
Well, there may be a slight element of safety. Oh, that's a great shot. That is a great shot. What a shot. What a shot. He had the safety element with the 8 ball. There was an element of it. What a great strike. That was never anywhere else. He's got to convert this now.
He will, surely. It's flashes of brilliance like that that just remind you of why this man is the great exponent of this craft.
One thing he's got to do, he's got to keep his body still on the shot. He's got to keep down on the shot. As long as they're elementary straight in, I think he'll be okay on that, but keep that body movement down. Okay, fair enough. Well, it's been a marvellous effort from Babica to get back in this match. Don't take anything away from him. But I think Reyes is over the line.
Well, we thought that against Tony Crosby, didn't we? He had the 9 ball in the last rack. Surely that particular lightning's not going to strike twice.
Caraman lost it for a fraction there, but he's back.
And Reyes looks like he's back as well. But only just. Well, they'll go nuts in just a moment. All that pent-up energy about to be released.